I couldn't think of two better people to talk about this conversation about connecting the Middle East and Africa. And so I'm very fortunate and honored to be sitting next to the two of you. We don't have a lot of time, which is difficult when you're talking about aviation. But let's just start maybe with the most pressing question that many people are thinking about. And that comes with the discussion around the manufacturers, Boeing and Airbus. I know you both have expressed confidence in the manufacturers individually, but I wonder, as executives of an airline, what is it that you want to see from these manufacturers to get production ramped up? Because this is ultimately affecting your bottom line. Badr, maybe you can start?
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. I think all airlines are facing the same problem currently with the late deliveries of their orders. We're one of the airlines, major airlines, that are really trying our best to assist both Boeing and Airbus and try to find solutions for them to make sure they deliver in accordance with the timelines they're giving us. I know they're under so much pressure when it comes to the supply chain market with their suppliers, but they need to put more pressure on those suppliers to make sure that airlines stop bleeding. The demand in the industry has picked up. It is very high. And unfortunately for passengers, for our customers, we're not able to meet their demand because of the shortage of aircrafts in the market.
Are you worried about that getting worse?
Yeah, of course we're worried about this, because my worry, whenever I get a firm date from a supplier, we expect and we depend on the supplier to meet the deadline. And this is how our commercial people start planning, our fleet resources start planning, our pilots, our cabin crew. And whenever the deadline keeps slipping, this means that all our plans are done was a waste, basically.
Mm. So Yvonne, then what are the options if that is true what you're experiencing at RwandAir?
Well, in addition to what Badr said, the situation is even worse for smaller airlines like ours, because we're scrambling for the same aircrafts. There's only a limited supply in the market, and for the smaller players, it becomes a bigger challenge. And in addition to that, not only in terms of the production line of new aircraft, even getting spare parts for the existing aircraft is proving to be a big challenge. We have, whenever you have a technical problem, your aircrafts are on the ground for so much longer than it was before. And again, for smaller airlines, that is a big challenge. So I'm hopeful that the situation is going to be resolved, but it needs a lot more effort needs to go into it. Otherwise, it's going to affect the entire aviation industry.
What do you think, if you can quantify that for us, for an airline like RwandAir? I mean, what would the hit actually look like, potentially?
Well, for RwandAir, as I mentioned, we're a small airline with about 14 aircrafts. So having one aircraft down, even a single aircraft, that disrupts your entire schedule, which impacts our customers, which impacts our bottom line as well. And not having access to additional aircraft, given the fact that airlines have rebounded from COVID, everybody is back to the pre-COVID numbers. There's so much opportunity that we need to tap into right now, and delaying that process is a big challenge. And for African airlines, given the opportunity within the African continent, the underserved market that it is, we need to take advantage of this and really accelerate the growth of airlines in the market.
Well, and let's talk about that, accelerating, the growth and the collaboration, because that is something that the two of you have worked closely on, especially with Qatar and RwandAir. I mean, can you talk about where the partnership is, where the deal is, and maybe what's to come in the short term? Because many people have been waiting for this deal to actually close and this partnership to close. Badr?
Okay. You know, we have a very big network in Africa. We fly to more than 30 destinations in Africa. And our model is to cover the whole continent of Africa. However, we need to look at certain areas within the continent. I'll give you an example. Our network in the north part of Africa and west part of Africa is basically growing organically. For example, we fly to 4 cities in Nigeria. We have a very successful partnership with the Royal Air Morocco. When it comes to the eastern part of Africa, we as well grow organically. The only missing elements in this equation and covering the whole of the continent of Africa is Central Africa and the southern part of Africa. When it comes to Central Africa, we couldn't find any better partner or any better location than to create or to build a hub for us and our partners other than Kigali. And this is where we started working with RwandAir, with the government in Kigali to build an airport, an infrastructure that can cater for the requirement of building a hub within the Central of Africa. And with this, RwandAir will help us to connect people from other parts of Africa to Kigali, so we can take them all over the world. The last piece of the equation is Southern Africa. We haven't announced this yet.
Do you want to announce it right now?
We will. Yes, we will announce it now. Yvonne knows about it. We are at the final stage of an equity investment in an airline in the southern part of Africa. This airline will help us, will complement the operation of Kigali as a hub, the operation of RwandAir as the airline that connects west, east, north of Africa to the airline that we are finalizing the investment in the southern part of Africa.
Is it also a state-owned airline? Can you give us some insight?
You will find out.
Badr, this is but maybe give us some insight into the type of partner you were looking for, because there's very few
very
airlines.
simple for you. You know, Southern Africa, you're talking about 2-3 airlines only. So pick one of them. And
I mean, maybe I can ask you both if the plan is then to have Kigali potentially rival and Addis Ababa. We were just talking about Addis Ababa. I mean, do you see this potentially being the hub of Africa, to rival something like Addis? What do you think, Yvonne?
Well, Addis is already a huge hub, but I think Kigali will be an alternative regional hub, especially given the geographical position of Rwanda, right in the heart of Africa, which gives us access to all the points, north, south, east, west. So we are very strategically positioned. So it'll be an alternative hub. There's a potential to grow it and to compete with the other regional hubs, but we're starting small and we'll continue growing it because, as I said, the potential in the continent is immense.
Give us a sense of the timeline then, when we could potentially see breaking ground, when flights will begin taking off there. I mean, how far out are we looking?
Well, breaking ground, the construction is already in progress. I believe we're just about to finalize the horizontal works and moving on to the vertical works. We're looking at 2027, 2028 in terms of the airport being operational.
Do the delays that we've been seeing with some of the suppliers and manufacturers potentially impact the success of the airport ultimately, do we think, Badr?
You know, in the industry, and I don't want to put it this way, but the best airline that has proven that they can build the best hub in the industry is Qatar Airways, with having Hamad International Airport. We know there are delays when it comes to suppliers. However, everything has been taken care of. With the suppliers, we have very strong communication with the contractors that are already on the ground, finalizing the infrastructure packages, and we have very close discussion with the contractors who will carry out the superstructure packages, and we're aiming to award the construction package by next month, maximum the month after. We're meeting next week as a steering committee, myself, Yvonne, and our other partners, basically to finalize the construction tender. So inshallah, it will finish by 27, 28.
And of course, you were very involved in the Hamad International Airport, as we were talking about. I mean, how similar to that could we see Kigali? Will there be iterations of what we see here, potentially in Kigali? Can you do that?
Yeah, I believe this was the whole intention of having this partnership between us and Rwanda, is to create a similar hub with the efficiency, with the design, with the with the concept of operation, similar to what we have here in HIA, and reflected in Kigali. And our teams, our operation teams, our construction people who are involved in the airport for more than a decade are the people who are responsible and looking after the airport in Kigali. And they will also be involved during the operation phase, assisting our colleagues and our partners in Rwanda.
When we talk about connecting the Middle East and Africa, Yvonne, you and I were speaking about this. It's important also to connect Africa and to have that intra-Africa trade. I mean, how do you get closer to that? I mean, of course, this is important, but how does this partnership then aid intra-Africa travel?
Well, I guess when we were discussing it, we were talking about the challenges in connecting the African continent. But they're challenges, but they're also opportunities. Africa is a market of 1.4 billion people, 16%, 17% of the global population, but we carry only 2% of global traffic. So that tells you what the potential is. There are a lot of challenges, yes, whether it's the cost of operations, infrastructure challenges, the issue of open skies, skilled resources. All these are challenges, yes, but they're also opportunities for airlines, African airlines and international airlines to tap into this. The key, we really need to see how to make sure that we connect the African countries, which is what RwandAir is really focused on, connecting Rwanda to the rest of the African countries, and then connecting the African continent to the rest of the world. We do that very well with Qatar Airways. We fly to Doha 6 times a week. We tap into we have an extended code share where we tap into over 70 routes within their network. So it's fantastic for us, for a small airline to have almost 90 routes for 14 aircrafts, but thanks to the code share that we have, we're able to extend our network further than we could do it by ourselves. So that really also adds on to the opening up of the African continent through this partnership as well.
Do you think there should be more partnerships then like this on the African continent? Is there room for that? Because there's not a lot of very successful airlines that we're seeing right now on the continent.
No, I think the way to go is through partnerships, whether between African airlines and also African airlines with other international airlines. As I mentioned, it's a huge continent, 54 countries that we need to connect, and no one airline can do that on their own. So the way to go is definitely through partnerships.
What do you want to see then? I mean, why aren't we seeing more?
Well, this is a challenge. There's a lot of protectionism, definitely, which we need to see how to overcome, because with protectionism, you're protecting a very small piece of the pie. Whereas through partnerships, you grow that pie and every player has more. So we need to see how to grow that 2% of global traffic to 10, 15, 20%. And the only way to really do that is really through partnerships.
Badr, I see you nodding there. Do you agree? Is that sort of what you've been assessing?
Yeah. To answer your question, for other airlines to have a similar partnership with international airlines, they need to come up with the same mindset that we've seen in Rwanda with our partners in Kigali. They opened their doors, they welcomed us, we sat on the table. There was no, they were not trying to protect their business, not allowing other people to come in. Our intention is to help Rwanda Air and Kigali Airport to go to the next level, and this is what we got from our friends over there.
How does this ultimately, because you've spoken a lot about Qatar 2.0, like this is this is a new era, right, for the airline. I mean, is this a part of that? I mean, how does this factor into your plan?
You know, we've been talking even internally within the company. Everybody talks about Qatar Airways 2.0.
I think you started that.
Yeah, I started this. You know, the first part when we started talking about Qatar Airways 2.0, it was basically meant to certain areas. It was about creating a culture of empowerment, a culture of trust within the company, to allow our management, our staff to stand up, give their opinion, try to implement their ideas, and of course, continue to be the best airline in the world, to continue to raise the benchmark, to continue to exceed the expectation of our customers, and to be the employer choice in the industry. This was the first milestone that we have been working on. However, the other areas that are part of Qatar Airways 2.0 is to look at the profitability of the company, to look at the commercial part of the company, to look at our network, how profitable certain routes are, to look at our fleet mix. You know, Qatar Airways has, I'll tell you, 7, 8 different type of aircrafts within the fleet. We are looking now how to reduce the type of aircrafts. I'll give you an example. In Airbus, we have the 320 family, the 330, the 350, the 380. In Boeing, we have the 737 family, the 787 family, and the 777 family. We used to have the 747, which exited our cargo fleet. So having 8 or 7 different type of aircraft in our fleet mix is putting pressure on us. When it comes to maintenance, to spare parts, to training our pilots, training our cabin crew. So this is part of Qatar Airways 2.0 as well. And this is reflected also in the tender that we have raised in the market few months ago, is basically to reduce the number of the type of aircraft we have in our fleet, to have more consistency in what we're giving our passengers, and to have a better streamline in our operation.
Have you thought then what you would actually cut out in terms of that fleet you just mentioned?
It depends on the answer we get back from both Boeing and Airbus through the tender that we have.
Okay, still.
Yeah, but we will not go from 7 different type of aircrafts to 2 or to 3. Still, and again, this is part of the internal discussion that we have as part of the creating a culture of empowerment and trust. We sit on the table between commercial, technical, flight ops, everybody, and basically plan the strategy of the company for the next 15, 20 years.
Yvonne, is RwandAir also looking to revamp its fleet? And of course, going back to Boeing, of course, with the concern around the safety incidents with certain aircraft. I mean, has that been factored into rethinking the makeup of your fleets, like Badr was just explaining?
Well, we've been in discussions in terms of what the future fleet will look like under the partnership with Qatar Airways. We have, again, for a small airline, we have a very diverse fleet, which we need to rationalize. So we are looking at which ones to remove and which ones to bring into the fleet. So that's a discussion that's still going on internally and with our partners. We should know in the coming months the way forward on that as well.
And I know you've talked about how travel is back to pre-COVID levels, but I wonder, do we see the Middle East conflict potentially getting in the way of that? Do you see travel demand continuing to surge, and especially when it comes to both of your airlines? I mean, what do you think will determine the direction of travel, so to speak? Badr?
You know, our industry has proven it is so resilient. Although the unfortunate conflict in the Middle East, our numbers continue to grow when it comes to passengers, when it comes to other airlines operating in Hamad Airport. We continue. Last year, we closed at an increase of 30% in the number of passengers. This year, so far, from the numbers I saw, for example, this morning, from 1st January till yesterday, we see 27% increase in the number of passengers. the load factor is the highest in any major airline. We see our flights, for example, to the US, it's 95–96% load factor. Our flights to Australia, to India, basically all our network, our load factor is averaging between 85–88%, which is very high, which proves that the people want to travel, want to fly.
Does that indicate then there's been no impact, no real significant impact to
No.
the travel
From what we
demand?
see, no.
What about you, Yvonne?
We haven't seen an impact, very similar to what Qatar is experiencing. We are seeing very high demand. Very little difference between our peak season and slack season. Demand has really grown. There's strong desire for people to travel. So it really hasn't impacted us. We do have a lot of geopolitical issues as well within the African continent, and even with that, demand still remains strong.
And let's just finish on maybe, what's the next evolution of connecting these two regions? I mean, this is, of course, one partnership, but how do you take it to the next level? What do you think we need to see actually happen in order to continue connecting Africa to the Middle East, but also to the rest of the world, as you both were noting? Yvonne?
Well, on my side, really connecting Africa to not only the Middle East, but to the rest of the world, we need to address all these challenges limiting connectivity within the African continent. We need to address the issue of high costs, whether it's high cost of fuel, airport charges, taxes, the issue of poor infrastructure at some airports, which challenges airlines to fly into some of these airports. The issue of open skies, full implementation of SATM, so that we get rid of these highly restrictive buses, bilateral air service agreements that we have, which restrict starting of new routes. Really upskilling, given the fact that Africa has such a young population. By 2030, I believe Africa will have 42% share of global youth. So the potential is huge. We need to get as many of them within the aviation sector, highly skilled to support this growth, the issue of visas within the African continent. So if we can remove a lot of that, then we can connect the countries, the 54 countries, really well, and then connect the 54 countries to the rest of the world.
Is that on the public sector, you think, to start the conversation?
It's on all levels, whether it's on the government level, or private sector level as well. It's the whole ecosystem. We need to work together to resolve these challenges.
Badr, the last word.
As I said in the beginning, Africa is a very important market for us, and we have a plan. The plan starts, of course, with our friends in Rwanda by building a hub and operate it as a hub. And this is our intention. This is first item on our plan. Second item is to build an airline with enough aircrafts in its fleet to be able to connect the rest of Africa. And this is, both items are already in progress. And we want to expand the airline to make sure we don't want to depend on other airlines in the neighboring countries. We will do it with our partners by expanding their fleet to be able to cover other destinations or to strengthen their network in Africa. The next item is basically to see where we feel we can improve our operation and complement and improve the operation of RwandAir and Kigali Airport by investing in other airlines, which is the airline in Southern Africa. So from our end and our partners in Rwanda, we have a plan, we have a strategy to make sure we expand our network in Africa and try to connect as many people in Africa and as many destinations and cities as possible.
When should we expect that announcement? On the Southern Africa airline?
Maybe in 2-3 weeks.
Okay, good to know. Badr, Yvonne, thank you both so much. Thank you to everyone for listening.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.